Substitute bride. Resolutely, King Vikram returned to the tree, took down the corpse, threw it across his shoulder, and began to walk back to the burial ground in silence. O king, said Betal, you seem to think too highly of human effort. Probably you haven't heard of the queer affair of Silavati. Let me tell it to you. And he began the following tale. Yajnadatta was an orphan boy. While still a kid, he went to Banaras, acquired great learning, and leaving Banaras, came to Vishalpur in search of livelihood. Dharmapala, the king, engaged him in his court, found a wife for him, and settled him in life. In the course of time, Yajnadatta's wife gave birth to a daughter who was named Silavati. Now, Silavati was a very attractive baby. On the occasion of the naming ceremony, the queen saw her and was at once seized with great maternal love. Day and night, she kept the baby by her side, looked after all its wants, bathed her, dressed her, and gloated over her. Sometime later, the queen too gave birth to a daughter who was named Kalavati. Now she had a daughter of her own, and yet she clung to Silavati with all her heart, treated her like an elder daughter, and could not bear to lose sight of her. Thus, Silavati grew up in the palace all the time. Kalavati called her sister. They were put under the same teacher for studies. As Silavati grew up, her father, Yajnadatta, was worried about her because she was being brought up more like a Kshatriya girl than a Brahman girl. She might insist upon choosing her husband from among a batch of suitors, and that would be too bad. So, Yajnadatta found a suitable boy and decided upon marrying Silavati to him. Silavati was greatly hurt when she heard about this marriage. Long ago, she had made a pact with Kalavati that they should both marry at the same time, that each should approve the other's husband, and so on. All this arrangement was brought to a knot on account of her father's decision. So, Silavati decided to thwart this marriage. One evening, while returning home from the royal gardens, Silavati said to Kalavati, my dear, I shall have a dip in the river and come. You go ahead. She went to the river, removed her clothes, and placed them under a stone. Then she put on the clothes of a student bachelor, unplaited her hair, and tied it up in a knot and walked away. Kalavati waited for her sister for a long time and then sent some men to the river. They found Silavati's clothes and reported her missing. It was assumed that Silavati was drowned. The palace, as well as the Brahmin's household, was immersed in sorrow. Kalavati told Yajnadatha, sister was moody since her marriage was decided upon. I am afraid she never approved of this marriage. On hearing this, the unhappy father was certain that Silavati committed suicide and that he himself was the cause of it. He got disgusted with himself and left the country with his wife. Silavati journeyed on foot for several days and arrived at a village called Brahmasthal. Some of the villagers asked her, who are you, young man? Whither do you go all by yourself? Sirs, Silavati replied, I am a poor bachelor. Kritavarma is my name. I am an orphan. I go to Banaras to acquire learning. You need not go as far if learning is all you need. The villagers told Silavati. We have here a great Pandit of Banaras called Somabhat. He can teach you everything. They led Silavati to Somabhat's house. The great Pandit was pleased with the bearing and behavior of the young bachelor. He agreed to keep him in his house and impart education. Now, Somabhat had a daughter to be married. Her name was Satya. She was never a handsome girl, and an attack of smallpox made her not only horrid to look at, but also blind in one eye. Somabhat never allowed the girl to be seen by others while he looked for a husband for her. At last, his efforts bore fruit, and a good looking bachelor called Vidya Bhaskar agreed to marry Sambhat's daughter. The day of marriage was fixed. The boy sent word to Somabhat that he was coming to see the bride to be in person. Somabhat was at a loss as to what to do. He thought up a bold plan. He called Silavati aside and said to her, look, my boy, I want some help from you. It is fortunate that boys of your country do not shave the head. You must dress yourself like a girl. Then he told her about his daughter and the tangle of her marriage. Silavati was a bold girl. She was already passing off as a boy, and putting on another disguise was nothing for her. She agreed to her teacher's request. In time, the would be bridegroom arrived. Selavati was dressed like a girl, and Vidya Bhaskar was thunderstruck at the amazing beauty of his future wife. Preparations for the marriage celebrations were afoot. Friends and relatives of Somabhat arrived from far off places. Most of them had not seen his daughter at all. Somabhat showed them Silavati as his daughter. He intended to carry on this deception until the Muhurat and then get the bridegroom to tie the Mangal Sutra around his daughter's neck while she was hidden behind the screen. The relatives of the bridegroom arrived to witness the ceremony. Satya, The real bride was kept in a basket in the dark chamber, while the false bride, Silavati, was employed for the purpose of performing Gauri worship just before the Muhurat. The bridegroom's people saw her and were quite happy. After Gauri worship, Somabhat placed Silavati in a basket and proceeded to take her to the dark chamber. Where are you taking her? The Purohit shouted. Bring her here. The Muhurat is at hand. Somabhat returned and said to the Purohit, Sir, it is our custom to hide the bride before marriage. The girl's maternal uncle does the hiding. We don't observe any such customs, the Purohit said impatiently. In any case, there is hardly any time. Kindly bring the bride. Somabhat turned to his brother in law, winked at him, and said, All right, bring the bride. Somabhat's brother in law went into the dark chamber, felt around for the basket, found it, and brought it to the place of marriage. The bride was sitting in the basket with her head bent down, and they noticed that it was Silavati who became the wife of Vidya Bhaskar when it was too late while she was being taken inside. When Somabhat discovered the error, he was terribly upset. His ruse miscarried and his daughter was left unmarried. Also, he was under the impression that Silavati was a boy. The bridegroom's people might discover this any moment and there would be a big scandal. He must avoid the scandal at all cost. He rushed inside, told Silavati to remove the disguise and whispered something in his wife's ear. Soon, Somabhat's wife came out pretending to be possessed by their home deity. Why did you forget me? She shouted in fearsome anger. How dare you marry the girl without her worshipping me in the first place? See what I have done to her now. One rushed inside and saw Satya, the real bride. Somabat pretended to be distressed by the change in the bride's appearance. But the guileless bridegroom consoled his father in law, saying, It is just my ill luck, sir. Don't blame yourself. I have accepted her as my wife for better or worse, and my wife she shall be all my life. Just then, Yagdatta arrived there with his wife. He and Somabat were boyhood chums at Benares. Somabat told Yagdatta in confidence what all had happened. On seeing the substitute bride, Yagdatta recognized his daughter Selavati. Having narrated the story thus far, Betal said, O king, should Yagdatta have considered his daughter properly married, or should he have kept quiet and let Vidya Bhaskar accept Satya as his wife? You know the answer, and yet do not speak, your head shall split. Silavati is undoubtedly the real wife of Vidya Bhaskar, Vikram replied. Vidya Bhaskar agreed to the marriage after seeing her. He tied Mangalsutra around her neck. Finally, he agreed to live with his ugly wife because to him she was still the same girl in a different form. As for Silavati, She went much further than her teacher wished. She played the bride right to the end without protesting. Thus, she was a willing bride. So, Yajnadatta should tell his friend the truth about Silavati and confirm her marriage. If Somabhat came to know that Silavati was really a girl, he would never think of depriving her of her husband. The king's silence was broken, and Bethal returned to the tree with the corpse. Thanks for listening.